Well, you've been talking for years about wanting to do an album made from the Great American Songbook. What is it about that era that interests you so much?
Well, I grew up listening to those songs. You know, my dad and his generation played those songs. My dad used to play piano at home, particularly on New Year's Eve. He was the pianist. And they'd roll back the carpet, and all the ladies would sit around sipping their rum and blackcurrant. And then after a half an hour of those, they would start singing, and always grew up loving them and associating those songs with family and good times. So there was that, and then I think the other thing is when I kind of got into songwriting, I realized how well structured these songs were. And I think I took a lot of my lessons from them.
Why now? What was the thing that finally led you to make the decision to do it?
I wanted to do it, so I met Tommy. We met in New York, and we started talking about this, and we were both interested in the idea. But I kept saying to him, problem for me is, everybody's doing it. Rod Stewart was doing his American Songbook stuff, and then he was doing another and another and another. Robbie Williams was doing one. I just thought, I can't do that because it's going to look, and in fact, this album still may look like, oh, here he goes, it's another person doing the Great American Songbook. So our big challenge, we thought, was to try and make it not that, try and do something else. You know, so we talked long and hard about that. And why now? We sort of figured a few things out. We thought we could do that. I could write a few, so that might distinguish it a little bit. I think in the end, it was just, look, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it.
Did you think at all about using one of your songs, which certainly qualify as standards,
We had talked about it, but as Paul put it, and it was the truth, I've done it. I did it. You know, are we going to do it better?
I think in the early days, we were anticipating that it would be a bit more Vegas than it's turned out. You know, if you do those old songs, I think the first thought is you're going to go, you know, the long and winding road, babe, leads to your door. So we went through that came up in the discussion, but it got nixed pretty quickly.
So what gave you the instincts that Tommy was the right person to do it with?
Well, just we liked each other, and I just started talking to him, and he knew all the songs I was talking about and more, so he could suggest some to me. So he turned me on to a couple of songs on this album. And the more we talked, the more I thought he was the right person. You know, he's been producing a long time. We've got a lot of things in common.
When you first heard the idea, did you go, oh no, not another one of those records? I don't know how we're going to get away from the convention and the cliches and stuff of it. Did you see a big danger sign there, or did you think do you have confidence that you're going to be able to overcome that?
Well, actually, even before I knew Paul's story, I always felt that he wrote like he had a sense of tradition of what the structure of songs and whatnot. And then, of course, when I met him and I found out his background and whatnot, it was very apparent, you know, that he did. It was an extension of these standards. So that really didn't bother me. The thing that I wanted to make sure of, and we were both on the same wavelength for this, was that one, we didn't want to do anything that had been done. So basically it got down to stylistically, of course the songs too, but stylistically, how were we going to approach this? We were going to approach it in a manner that was, one, not like anything that had been done before, and also we didn't want it to sound like, you know, that, you know, ain't that a kick in the head kind of thing.
I think Tommy suggesting Diana Krall to play piano was a good thing, because then we met up, Tommy, me and Diana. She started playing some stuff, and she's like that. She's, you know, her dad loves all the old songs, and was one of the songs on the album, Home, which I suggested because it's something my dad used to play, and I remembered it from a long, long time ago when I was a kid. I used to play a little instrumental version on guitar. I kind of learned it on guitar. And I said, what about this song, Home? And Diana said, I thought I was the only person in the world who knew that song. So, you know, we suddenly found she was a great team player and had a lot in common and wanted to do this stuff. the way we wanted to do it.
Because years ago, you also talked about doing a jazz album someday. But this has a touch of almost the best sense of jazz, the experimentation, the freedom of jazz. How did that kind of creep into was that with Diana coming in, or?
Well, it was the casting of the musicians and, of course, the songs. I think it had more to do with the people that we used, leaned in that direction. But also, everyone we used was very, very conscious of and knew all of the standards. So I think it just sort of went that way. But it didn't go to the point where it was like hard swinging kind of thing. I kept thinking of things in like two, with a two feel more than a 4/4, Sinatra kind of thing.
Tommy suggested some songs, Diana suggested some, I suggested some, friends suggested some. We ended up with a list that we thought, yeah, okay, well, let's just take all of these in the studio and just see what happens. We came in this studio, and I was in the vocal booth, and a bit intimidated by the whole thing, because I've normally got a guitar or a piano in front of me to protect me. This time there was nothing. I was just standing up at a mic. I was a little bit nervous about the whole thing. And then the engineer said to me, he said, that's Nat King Cole's mic. So I went, ah. So that was really put the pressure on. And we started looking at the songs, and Diana would just say, well, what do you want to do? Tommy said, what do you want to do? We said, okay, we had sheet music on them all. Okay, well, what about this one? We'd start off with that. While I'd be learning it and trying to find my way into the song, Diana would be figuring out her part and an intro. And we said, should we start with the guitar, or should we start with stride piano, or how about this, a little bit gentler? Or we do?
A lot of spontaneous.
So it was very spontaneous and kind of organic, which then reminded me of the way we worked with the Beatles. We'd bring a song in, we'd kick it around, and when we found a way to do it, we'd say, okay, let's do a take now. And by the time everyone kind of had an idea of what they were doing, we'd learned the song. The good thing about working with Tommy, one of the good things, is he sits in the studio. He doesn't go in the booth. So he's like an extra member of the band, and he'll just be sitting there. He's saying, and that groove was just a little fast. You want to try it a tad slower? We'll kind of look at him and generally say, yeah. Sometimes we said, no. But it was a nice way of working. It was good for us all, I think. And we just started to just have fun with it,
The real turning point was More I Cannot Wish It, which is Frank Lesser's song. Beautiful song. Obscure in the sense that it's from Guys and Dolls, but it wasn't in the movie. It was in the Broadway stage, in the show it was, but it wasn't in the film. Paul, at that point, I think, got a sense as to where he was saying, how am I going to approach this? How am I going to sing this? And there was just one point where he just started singing with the tone and the manner in which he approached it. And suddenly it was like we went in and we listened and we said, wait a minute, yeah.
As I say, when I first came in, it was pretty intimidating for me with jazz guys, Diana, people who I know a lot of these songs, know how to play them, I've played them a lot. And me, it's not really my world. So I was trying to have to find a way in. I would be starting off kind of, heaven, I'm in heaven. I'm thinking, I'm not enjoying this. There's something too obvious about this. So I started to think, when they told me it was Nat King Cole's mic, I started to just lean in on my, heaven, I'm in heaven. Which I know, recording-wise, the engineers like, because the mics like it. Microphones like you to be nice. If you go, way, microphone goes, yeah!
It's like an ear.
It actually is like an ear, yeah, it freezes kind of thing. So I started to kind of, caress the microphone, started to enjoy it. And then, as you said, we went back in to listen. Al Schmidt, who's a great engineer, I just made it sound so good. It was so pure that I started to go, okay, I think this is the way forward now. We decided then to just keep it really very simple, keep everything very organic and very simple, not go the big bombastic, big band way, and just keep that as our approach, and just trying to get in the songs and mean the songs, you know, sing the songs so like you actually meant them.
So what's it like when he's struggling? I mean, you want to help him. You want to say, Paul, you know, because you'd think everybody be intimidated with Paul being in the room, not Paul being intimidated by them.
No, but see, look,
he's struggling.
The musicians had so much respect for Paul, and Paul has a great manner in the studio. He puts everyone at ease, and like I mentioned to him once, he lets you do your job. You know, it's not, there's
Yeah,
no...
Tommy said at the end of the first week, we said, we had such fun, you know. He said, yeah, you let me produce, which I hadn't even thought I was doing, you know, but it's actually a good point. Got a producer here who's a great producer. Yeah, you tell me, Tommy, you know. But I remember Diana looking over from her piano to the vocal booth. There was something we had to kind of work out. She said, well, I don't know, you know, what should we do here? I said, Diana, I said, look, I said, I'm in LA, I'm in Capital A studio, I'm on Nat King Cole's mic, the weather's great, I'm a tourist, I'm on holiday. and she kind of smiled, and it was like, yeah.
You know, the spontaneity also came from, there's a good example of this. We did this song, Glory of Love. And it was really the only song that we struggled with a bit. And we were just about ready to give up on it. And Diana said, you know, listen, why don't we have John Clayton, the bass player, why don't we have John and Paul just do the first verse? John
Vocal and bass.
Yeah, exactly, vocal and bass. I mean,
she just unlocked it with that.
Exactly.
And it was like,
everybody fell in.
At first I thought, uh-oh, don't like the sound of this. There's me on the spot, you know. But it was great. It was just John playing, and it's like, you know, it just worked, and suddenly the track was done.
Tell us again about the More I Cannot Wish You, the idea of a father singing it to the daughter. That struck you as a light.
Yeah. The first thing I heard was a cast recording from Geisendorf from the stage show. It's a beautiful song, you know, he's singing Mansions I Can Wish You, 7 footmen in a row, and calling cards upon a silver tray, but more I cannot wish than you find your own true love. So it's like, you know, I can wish you all this great stuff, but, you know, really what I'm wishing you is you find love, you know. So for a father to a daughter, particularly with me having an 8-year-old, you know, some of it was quite moving. I mean, the whole thing was very moving. And then when he says, music I can wish you, merry music while you're young, and wisdom. Wisdom when your hair has turned to grey. Well, me thinking about my 8-year-old with her hair turned to grey did me in. And then Johnny Mandel came in to do some of the arrangements, and he did that one beautifully, very simply, because he doesn't even come in with his arrangement till it says, music I can wish you, and there's this beautiful Mandel string thing that happens that really just adds to the emotion. You go,
was there any moment where Diana felt tempted to open her mouth and sing along with you?
No, it was funny, really, wasn't it? You know, I think that was always the back of my mind. Like, Diana's a singer. She just brought her band, and she was the accompanist. She was the pianist, and I think she was kind of happy in that role.
She was absolutely happy being the sideman.
And so it was kind of interesting, yeah, but I think at the back of my mind, it was like, whoa, you know, she should be singing. But it kind of never came up. She just was always very happy to make musical suggestions, play the great solos and fills, intros and stuff. So it was a kind of another side of Diana that you get on this record.
Are you already assembling songs for another?
I am. Yeah, you know, you can't help it. You just sort of think, that could be a good one. But let's get this one done.